pop out the womb and you're like, mother, if we could just speed run this, if you could like smash my head with a rock so I could just get the second life done immediately, move right on to the third. That would
I
be
have committed no sins yet. I
no
know it's
sin.
been 20 minutes.
One more go around, I get a free ice cream and I can be a king. It's great.
You don't understand. There's free Mai Tais on the other side of this.
It says, wait, you gotta put a coin in my mouth. You gotta put a coin in my mouth.
Hello, and welcome to Notes from the Oracle. I'm Connor, and together with Jack, my co-host from Cabin 6, we're going beyond Half-Blood Hill to take a closer look at the electrifying mythology of Percy Jackson and the Olympians, Book 1, The Lightning Thief. Chapter 19. We find out the truth. Sort of. I liked that there was a comma in there. This is the only comma in the book, in a chapter title, that is.
I highlighted it, Connor. I'm glad you noted it too.
I circled it.
So, good chapter title. The last few have been kind of stinkers. What are we thinking about this one? Comma aside.
I think that in comparison to the last couple chapter titles, it's certainly not the peak of chapter titles for the book, but it's definitely better. I'd give it a 6 out of 10.
I agree. I was feeling 5.5, somewhere around there. It's slightly above average. I said comma aside, but I think that 0.5 above average is from the comma.
Is from the comma.
Yeah.
It does pretty much tell us what we're about to get ourselves into. Big revelations. I enjoyed a lot of those big revelations. I know we were talking a little bit before we got started. I actually really enjoyed this chapter. I thought it moved really quickly for 20 pages and being one of the longer chapters in the novel. I felt like it really had my attention for that whole time.
So this is where we flip-flop a little bit. And I wish that my feelings on this chapter were a little bit more logical outside of just vibes. But this chapter dragged a little bit in certain areas. And then in other areas, I fully agree. I thought it was very fun. But the way that this chapter is broken down is in like 3 sections. And the first section I feel like is, oh, here's all this stuff in the underworld. Look at that. But it doesn't do it in as fun of a manner as the last chapter. I feel like it wasn't as creative personally. And then the second part is, I would say, fun, which is the Tartarus stuff. Oh, something crazy's happening with the shoes. And then the third part is Hades, which is peak. So good.
Yeah.
I think the chapter is fine. It's just the parts that you had mentioned as being more compelling than last chapter when it came to building out the underworld, I kind of disagree with.
I think I'm also coming at it from the perspective of having done the Mythnos research for the Fields of Asphodel as well as the Elysian Plain. I've got a pretty good idea of what I'm expecting, and this is surprisingly true to myth in a way that, like, Mount Olympus being at the top of the Empire State Building has that added layer of modern fantasy put over top of it that you are kind of missing in this in particular, especially coming off of the back of TSA traffic jam to get into the underworld.
Mm-hmm. So what
But
you're telling me right now is that I'm just not smart and educated enough to really appreciate it. That's what you're saying.
look, Jack, it's not my fault. It takes a very high IQ to get Percy Jackson.
So yeah, Percy Jackson, this middle grade fiction, pretty high level of entry.
I've got a pretty high IQ. That's why I'm the myth guy.
That's right. All right, Myth Boy, then let's jump into it. So I think Rick does do a pretty good job of painting a picture here, with the first sentence being, imagine the largest concert crowd you've ever seen, a football field packed with 1 million fans. And then it's followed with, now imagine a field 1 million times that big, packed with people. And imagine the electricity has gone out, and there's no noise, no light, no beach ball bouncing over the crowd. Something tragic has happened backstage. Like, oh, shit. This is where most people go? This sucks.
Yeah. I really liked the idea of a description that is almost impossible to imagine. 1 million fields of 1 million fans is so far beyond human comprehension
Mm-hmm.
that it is quite literally unfathomable. I like that that kind of captures the energy of this just vast emptiness that is yet still so full. It's like there's so much here and nothing is happening.
And
And that
nothing at
is
all.
horrifying.
Mhm.
We're given a little bit of a picture of what the fields of Asphodel look like as well. Black trees that are poplars, black grass trampled by eons of dead feet, and a warm, moist wind that blew like the breath of a swamp. Man, this isn't the medium place. This sucks.
This place fucking blows, yeah. And all these swirling masses of people, literally just a sea of people as far as the eye can see, all just kind of shifting and listing aimlessly, looking slightly angry or confused, and they'll go up to one another and their voices, they'll try to talk, but it just comes across like senseless chatter. I think it's specifically described as like bats twittering.
Yeah. Once they realize you can't understand them, they frown and move away.
Just
They're
move
looking
away.
for any human connection. They're like, a living person. Or maybe they're just like a person.
Yeah.
And nothing comes of it.
Mhm. I love this next line. It's just 2 sentences right next to each other. Percy comes to the realization, "The dead aren't scary. They're just sad." Which might be worse.
I caught that one as well. I highlighted that. I underlined it. I said, damn, this shit sucks.
Yeah.
I feel like it really captures what the underworld is supposed to be, especially the Fields of Asphodel. Like, hot damn, that is an unfortunate depiction of what is coming for most people.
Yeah. It's definitely I mean, I don't know, if I were Percy, I'd be like, "This is sobering." Which I think he does have kind of a moment of that in a
Mhm.
couple of pages, but I'm getting ahead of myself. As Annabeth, Grover, and Percy are creeping along, they're following these lines of new arrivals that are snaking from the main gates towards this black tented pavilion with a actually somewhat cheery banner that reads
Yeah.
Judgments for Elysium and Eternal Damnation. Welcome, newly deceased, with an exclamation point.
It's crazy, especially when you get to the next paragraph, which is describing we just saw the fields of Asphodel. Now, to our left, we could see the rocky path toward the fields of punishment, which glowed and smoked in the distance. A vast, cracked wasteland with rivers of lava and minefields and miles of barbed wire separating the different torture area. Percy describes how he could see people being chased by hellhounds, burned at the stake, forced to run naked through cactus patches, or just listen to opera music, and how in the very distance he could see a tiny hill with an ant-sized figure of Sisyphus struggling to move his boulder to the top. I mean,
I love,
I'm
yeah,
gonna I'm gonna hit you with a lot of Good Place references today, I feel like. So, minor spoilers for The Good Place. I won't spoil anything big, and if you haven't seen it, you should watch it. But as Percy said, and I saw worse tortures too, things I don't want to describe. I was like, oh, he saw the penis flatteners.
oh no. Oh, they're like
Like,
12. I don't want them to see that.
this feels like a very Christian version of hell,
It
which
is.
isn't too surprising when you consider that the fields of punishment are not a Greek mythological place. The damned just went to Tartarus. That was it. You got thrown in the pit.
Yeah. Based on this, I'd rather go in the pit. Are you
It
kidding me? This place
this is
sucks.
almost worse.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I do like how Sisyphus is just like the mascot of this place though. They've set him up perfectly to where like, yeah, even in the far distance, you know it's him. You know it's the guy. His silhouette is there.
And then, of course, just the wonderful discrepancy of the line coming from the right side of the pavilion was much better. This one led to a small valley surrounded by walls, a gated community, the only happy part of the underworld. It has Roman villas, medieval castles, and Victorian mansions. Silver and gold flowers bloomed on the lawns, the grass rippled in rainbow colors. I could hear laughter and smell barbecue cooking. Elysium. Every day you wake up and you get to go look at the peasantry who did
I know.
poorly in life.
It's this, like, schadenfreude. You'd be like, "Oh, so glad that's not me."
And then, of course, they've got in the middle of that valley, the glittering blue lake, which was described like a vacation resort in the Bahamas, which is the Isles of the Blessed for people who had chosen to be reborn 3 times and 3 times achieved Elysium. Annabeth looks over, she says, "That's what it's all about. That's the place for heroes."
Mhm. Which is exactly what Percy is thinking too. There's some I wanna dig into with that concept, but before we get into that, that last bit of descriptions when it came to the Fields of Punishment and Elysium and the Isles of the Blessed, I was underwhelmed. I was genuinely, truly underwhelmed. It felt as though it's like, "Yep, that's about what I expected," or I guess, I don't know, it didn't exactly throw me for a loop. I just feel like, and maybe I'm wrong and maybe I'm alone in this, Rick could have used some more of his creative juices to make something as grand and interesting as making the gates to the underworld like the New Jersey Turnpike.
I'll give you that, but at the same time, I think it's perhaps if you consider that the chapter was written as a whole and it's like a separate chapter from the previous one, this is where we really need to emphasize that nothing has changed here in a millennia. Hades is that backed up, sort of a thing. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting.
I suppose, but it has changed because we see the different types of buildings and we see the different types of people. So I don't necessarily know that I buy that. I think it's just a very easy cop out. Yeah, paradise is when you get to have barbecues and have a big house and you're rich and it's awesome. And then the Isles of the Blessed is like you're at a resort. It's like that's boring. That's boring and I don't know. That's not intriguing to me.
Honestly, yet again, I did note it does kind of continue to remind me of The Good Place,
Mhm.
especially with lines like, so few people did good in their lives, it was depressing.
If I manage to achieve Elysium 3 times and all I get is a fucking resort in the Bahamas, I am going to rise up and kill Hades.
Honestly, when you start drawing attention to it in that manner, it's hard to disagree. It's a very small part of the chapter, so I think is why I was like, "Yep." And then you get some action right after that, that I very much enjoyed. So I think I was willing to just kind of move along. It's an underwhelming description of the underworld if you're looking for more. If you're looking for mythological accuracy, it hits the nail on the head. I do think that it's one of those areas where, as a writer, trying to describe the afterlife is inherently hard as hell. Like, trying to come up with anything that seems simultaneously fair, but also interesting, you're going to come up short.
Yeah, but also it's Rick we're talking about.
That is true. That
Like, I
is true.
I expect I'm gonna put a little Chiron on him. I expect more from him.
See, it's okay because you're not doing it to a 12-year-old who's missing half the information.
That's true. I'm doing it to a much older man than me who's also gonna be a lot more successful than I'll ever be. But yeah, they're talking about Elysium, you go there 3 times, and Percy then makes the proclamation, like, so few people did good in their lives. It's depressing, which is interesting because we've talked about the concept of heroic not equaling good in mythology, at least by modern standards. So I'm curious on your thoughts, and maybe we'll get English hats on or maybe conspiracy helmets. I'll let you determine how crazy we're getting. But what do you think it's like seeing that morality shift or the concept of heroic not equating goodness into goodness now being necessary to be heroic over time?
So we're gonna absolutely get into more of this in the myth section
Mm.
because interestingly, we do get a few descriptions of what it takes to achieve Elysium, and the bar is so fucking high. I believe one of the quotes that I pulled specifically says that you have to live a life with literally no wrongdoing is how you achieve Elysium. So it should be effectively impossible And yet we know that there's a bunch of people in there that straight up just should not be.
Connor, you'd know better than me. I can't think of a single Greek hero that would be considered like, "Oh, you were good.
Yeah,
You're a
man.
hero, sure, but, like, you were a bastard who was incredibly violent and quick to anger and left a lot of destruction in your wake
You know
constantly."
who's in Elysium? Blameless Bellerophon, who,
Well, that makes
at the
sense.
very
That's true.
least that's true, he's so blameless. At the very least, accidentally murdered one person and then went on to slaughter groups and groups of people.
Yeah, it's more of an art than a science when being good and being a hero, I guess.
Look, man, I'm just gonna reiterate that last chapter we learned that Thomas Jefferson is on the list of judges, and to be a
Yeah.
judge, you have to be in Elysium. The system is rigged. This is just nepotism.
I guess would it be nepotism? Because Hades is
Oh,
the one that's, like,
don't
setting
worry.
all these standards, right?
I've got another quote that specifically says, "Don't worry, you married Helen. That makes you Zeus's son-in-law, so you're going to
Oh,
Elysium. Guaranteed."
okay.
It is
Understood.
quite specifically nepotism.
Okay. So, the moral is the entire underworld fucking blows.
Yep,
Great.
yep.
Awesome. Alright. That's that pin. Thanks, Connor.
You're welcome. We'll come back to it. I'm putting so many more pins in the myth section. We're gonna get to this when we talk about Elysium.
Great.
I have problems with the entire concept.
Well, then I don't wanna steal any more of your thunder. We will push past this for now and very happily revisit.
Well, you know who's not gonna be happy about what comes next? Grover.
Grover, yeah.
As they see Elysium in the distance, they start walking off, and Grover yelps as his sneakers, without him saying the magic word, start flying off. They sprout wings, his legs shoot forward, and he is pulled away from the rest of the group. He lands flat on his back in the grass, and the shoes are flapping like crazy as they drag him away. We know now, and by the end of this chapter, that they are dragging him to Tartarus. This is Luke's master plan. Give Percy flying shoes and send him to Tartarus. And I love that there was never a chance that this would work, but that it works so poorly down to the fact that Grover's feet are not intended to stay in the shoes, so eventually they just flop off.
Mhm.
You get a really good action scene. I hope that you also enjoyed this. I think I enjoyed more the aftermath as they're realizing where they are and they're walking away from Tartarus, but it was certainly fun.
Yeah, I thought the first half was kinda like again, I'm trying to view it as though I don't know what's gonna happen. The first half is like, "Oh, this is fucking weird. What's happening?" It's like more of them walking through a field and then walking through a dark cave, like, not exactly environmentally interesting. But it very quickly becomes apparent that something really, really, really bad is happening. This isn't like a glitch. This is something
Yeah.
that has been meticulously planned, and I did have a fun time with it. I thought that the stakes rose very high very quickly, which I appreciated, and much like when Tartarus, or specifically Kronos and his presence, is invoked by Rick, there's just some great descriptors here.
Yeah. I felt like the intensity really ramped the moment you got to the place where it said, "The tunnel got darker and colder. The hairs
Mhm.
on my arm bristled. It smelled evil down here. It made me think of things I shouldn't even know about. Blood spilled on an ancient stone altar. The foul breath of a murderer."
Yeah, it's so good.
It's really good, and I did try to figure out what this was a reference to. My best guess is the castration of Uranos,
Mm.
because that's sometimes said to have happened on a mountain,
Whatever it is, it's something that Percy and a bunch of children should not be around.
and Grover is sliding toward what is described as a tunnel that widened into a huge dark cavern, and in the middle was a chasm the size of a city block. An unimaginably large sinkhole to what is presumably a vast dark nothingness.
Mhm. And Percy immediately clocks this. Annabeth
Mhm.
is yelling and tugging at Percy's wrist, like, "Come on, we gotta go!" Percy says, "But that's," and she says, "I know. It's the place you described in your dream, but Grover is going to fall if we don't catch him." And she's right. And I love that. This is implied. Annabeth, she is well aware of like, "Oh, fuck, this is Tartarus and that is Kronos. That doesn't matter right now. Grover needs me." She is more aware of the danger than Percy is, and she's also the one that's like, that does not matter at this point in time."
I really liked getting to finally have this moment where she's like, "Yeah, I know what's there. I was
Mhm.
really hoping that that wasn't what you were talking about because I really don't wanna be there." And I love as well that once they finally do manage to save Grover, he finds a rock, he grabs on, he's clawing at the gravel, he's now scraped up and down, and one of the shoes flies off, giving him just enough time to grab a rock and for the other shoe to slowly wiggle its way off of one of its hooves. And from that point, the shoes have a certain level of sentience that
Mhm.
they circle around and kick their heads in protest before flying
Yep.
back into the chasm.
Yep. And then they kill themselves.
Yes! World mechanic, like, lore question that I don't have an answer to, and I don't expect you to either. Do you think that the magic in them from Hermes was what gave them sentience, and then that sentience was corrupted by Tartarus? Or do you think that Luke managed to curse these shoes and give them the curse of knowledge?
I think Luke was given access to the old magics via Kronos. Kronos is like, "This is
Mhm.
what you're gonna wanna do to those fuck ass shoes, okay?" The shoes were programmed. You're a programmer, Connor.
Yep.
So it was, if near Tartarus, then fly away, yes. I don't know if that's proper coding language.
It's
Don't
pretty
correct me.
close.
There we go. I'm a coder now. So they do that. I think that there's not as much sentience as it is, "Oh, we still have this directive. We have fallen off. We need to get who was wearing them into the pit. This is the last fail-safe. We're gonna kick him in the back of the head a
We're
couple of
gonna
times.
try and
Alright,
kick them into
that's not
Tartarus.
working. Time to kill ourselves." Like, no evidence. So,
Alright,
I
I'll
don't think
buy.
there was as much, like, sentience as much as it was there were some deeper levels of protocol that were coded into it magically. That's what I think.
That answer works for me. I think that's good enough. We'll get to sentient magic items later, perhaps not until we meet the Sword of Summer all the way in the Norse stuff. But I was just curious because these shoes, they're opinionated.
And we get another, "Ooh, something weird's happening." And it's a throwaway line at first, but it ends up being the most important line in, like, the entire chapter.
Yeah.
And that's, "We all collapsed, exhausted on the obsidian gravel. My limbs felt like lead. Even my backpack seemed heavier, as if somebody had filled it with rocks."
I like that that's going to get brought up like 3 times to make sure they.
Yes! It's like we're realizing that that's kind of weird along with Percy. Because, like, right
Mhm.
now, it's like, yeah, they were just booking it, sprinting as fast as they could, presumably quite far. They're running through a field and then they're in a cave. I doubt it was like, they were doing a 200-yard sprint. So I'm sure they're tuckered out and they were putting all of their effort in trying to get Grover back. So it's like, all right, I get it. Percy, this strong kid, is even saying, yeah, even this backpack with very little in it is starting to weigh me down. Like, all right.
Mhm.
And then it's brought up again and it's like, all right,
All right, that's
that
odd.
is a little
Why
weird.
twice?
And then the third time, we're going to talk about the third time. But then the
Yeah.
third time, it's like something bad is happening.
And speaking of things that are worse, now that they're right here by Tartarus, they're suddenly realizing the import of where they are.
Hmm. Yeah.
The moment where Percy says, I could almost make out words now. Ancient, ancient words, older even than Greek. We get the second mention of the backpack weighing Percy down. They drag Grover away because he's just been scraped across obsidian gravel.
Yeah.
Props to him for still being alive, man. That sounds awful.
Yeah, no, that's tough. He took one hell of a beating, but he is booking it. And I love that it's like, oh god, it's freaky because as they're running, the voice that's coming from this chasm, these deep whispers and incantations of a lost language, is getting louder and angrier behind them. And it just made me think of like, Connor, you have a basement that's kind of scary. You know, when you would like turn the lights off in the basement and then like book it upstairs and you'd have that feeling
Yes.
like, oh fuck, something's chasing me. Oh no.
Dude, that was me every time I turned off the lights in the basement as a kid. You're so spot on.
Yes.
Except here, there's actually something
There's
that is
actually
trying to eat
something.
you, and it's
Yeah.
great and evil.
Yes. And this is where we get another reference to this cold feeling. There's a cold blast of wind pulling
Yep.
at their backs as if the pit was inhaling. And I love Percy, says that for a terrifying moment, I lost ground. My feet were slipping on the gravel. And if they'd been any closer to the edge, if they didn't act immediately as they did, they would have been sucked in. So this is another example of Annabeth saving everybody's life by
Yep.
saying, "Hey, let's maybe not stand here jaws agape and
Over the
get the
pit of
fuck
despair.
going." Yeah.
Yeah, and then it goes from a pit of despair to a pit of rage. A
Yes.
wail of outrage echoed from deep in the tunnel. Something was not happy we'd gotten away. I love
Mhm.
that. This is the moment that Kronos is realizing the plan hasn't worked, and he is pissed.
Oh, he's so mad. It was literally right there, and it slipped out of his grasp.
And I just love the way Percy describes it. Whatever was in that pit was nobody's pet. It was
Mhm.
unspeakably old and powerful. Even Echidna hadn't given me that feeling. And then they have to turn and go face down Hades.
Yep. Yeah, this is back to back not great vibes.
So, unless there's anything you wanted to say remaining about Kronos and the Pit of Tartarus, we can start to move on to them walking up to Hades' palace.
Yeah, actually, there is one thing. It
Hit me.
describes Grover's eyes as turning into goat-like slits because he's scared, and I hated that.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if there was anything worth mentioning about that because I too was like, that makes me uncomfortable.
I read that and went, gross. Don't
Your
like
eyes
that.
should be like that always or
Or
never.
never.
Not
Yeah,
not both.
that's demonic. Yep,
That
that's
I
the
mean
only other thing I had
specifically
to add.
goat motifs and demons. Yeah, maybe that's why the creepy eyes. Well,
Speaking of
speaking of
creepy,
Yep, I was literally about to say, speaking of creepy.
we get to the Wicked Witch of the West Castle with the flying monkeys scurrying overhead. Oh, sorry. It's actually Hades' palace with the Furies also circling overhead. It is literally straight out of the Wizard of Oz, though.
Yep, yep,
Which is, it's gotta be intentional, right? It's got
I
the
feel
three
like it.
Furies flying in circles over the parapets. Come on.
And then you just get this, like, comically evil picture of Hades. There are engravings on the gates that are all scenes of death, an atomic bomb exploding over a city, a trench filled with gas mask wearing soldiers, a line of African famine victims waiting with empty bowls. All of them looked as if they'd been etched into bronze thousands of years ago. I wondered if I was looking at prophecies that had come true.
Mhm.
I don't know
And
what's
Connor,
worse.
that that little paragraph, it's only a few lines. I wanted more of that in the first section, 'cause that's fucking baller and very creative. Miss me with that barbecue shit, alright? Give me prophecies that may or may not be unfolding, or a door that constantly updates itself with new ways of horrific deaths.
I'll give it to you. This goes hard. This is
Yeah.
setting the bar of quite high for the Hades Palace is horrifying type shit. And I do think it keeps up. I like that we get the callback to Medusa's statues as we start
Yes.
walking into Hades and Persephone's garden. And
Yeah. Mhm.
they describe it as the strangest garden they've ever seen, filled with multicolored mushrooms and poisonous shrubs, precious jewels that make up for the lack of flowers.
I really do think everything that once we hit to Hades' palace, everything that is described, including Hades himself, is superb. And we could have gotten more of that when they were describing the Fields of Asphodel and Elysium and the Isles of the Blessed. All right, that's the last I'll mention of it. but these are just going forward. These are perfect examples of how we were missing out and how I know Rick has that sauce.
They would also see in the garden the pomegranates of the underworld. And Percy is, by some sudden innate desire, he's tempted to eat them. But he remembers the story of Persephone and that one bite of underworld food and he would never be able to leave. And I love that Grover's consistent character trait is stupid when it comes to food. And he is about to just pick a whole ass pomegranate and go for a bite. Come on,
Yeah.
man. You were
Uh-huh.
just almost dragged into literally Tartarus,
I
literally
know.
the deepest pits of hell, and you're like, maybe I'll stay a little while.
It worked up an appetite, man.
I guess. I like that Hades just casually uses dead soldiers as his own
Yeah.
personal guard. Some wore Greek armor, some British redcoat uniforms, some camouflage with tattered American flags on the shoulders. They carried spears or muskets or M16s.
Imagine having your battle buddy, you've got an M16 and your battle buddy's carrying a fucking sharpened stick. Like, all right, can we not also give him the gun?
One of these guys is going to be doing a lot more of the work in the event of an emergency.
Oh, yeah.
But with all of that, I did like that Percy notes that none of them bothered us because Hades will go on to be like, why do you think I made it so easy for you to get here? He really did have the full armies of the dead at his disposal. And he was like,
Mhm.
no, come on in.
Yeah. And I know this is more of a like concept of like Valhalla for warriors, but I wonder if it's like, yeah, if you're a soldier, Hades can just conscript you, or if you're exemplary in your service, then you are offered a chance to serve the Lord of the Dead as part of the greatest army in all of Undeath.
So I don't have an answer to that exact question because that would be a really cool additional layer to it. I do know that Ares has domain over all the dead from a losing side. So I was actually about to comment that these British redcoats must not have served in the Revolutionary War and died in the Revolutionary War because otherwise they would be under Ares' command. Hades gets all the winners
Oh shit.
because
Oh.
when they're in the Sea of Monsters, Clarice will have a boat manned by Confederate soldiers because they lost, and that makes them Ares' domain.
I didn't know that. That's so cool.
So these are specifically all victors, too. Grover says, I bet Hades doesn't have trouble with door-to-door salesmen.
Boo. Tomato, tomato, tomato. Come on, Grover. You're like
I
0
will
for
say,
2 in the last chapter.
I know, as far as jokes and levity goes, Percy, and I apologize for skipping to it, but Percy commenting on, I wonder what you had to do in life to get punished by being sewn into Hades' underwear. That's much funnier. I really enjoyed
I
that.
agree.
That gave me a good
I
giggle.
yeah. I also, not to ghostwrite your jokes for you, Rick. That works on a couple levels. Ghostwrite, get it? 'Cause dead.
I get it.
Yeah, we're off to a great start. Not to ghostwrite your jokes for you, Rick, but also this was a perfect setup. Maybe it's too niche of a joke, but Grover could have joked about Death of a Salesman. You're like,
Don't
"Oh,
get it.
I've heard of Death of a Salesman," but that's crazy. Death of a Salesman, it's, I'm pretty sure, a famous book and also a very famous play. Am I making this up? Hold on. Did I just hallucinate this?
You're well read.
Yeah,
I
Arthur
believe that it
Miller.
exists. Oh, yeah, Arthur Miller. I'm not reading anything by Arthur Miller. Are you kidding?
You got something against Arthur Miller?
Yeah, that name alone sounds boring.
Alright, so it's nothing about him, that's purely ad hominem, you just don't like his name?
Correct. He sounds
That's
like an old white guy who
fucked up.
writes boring stuff.
Well, yes, alright, I don't know how old he was when he wrote Death of a Salesman, but it's a classic. Alright, so, basically, pearls before swine, that joke is fucking awesome, and you just don't appreciate it.
I'll take your word for it. I'm sure it is an awesome joke. I'll continue giggling at the underwear joke.
Great. Awesome.
But we get our third mention of the backpack weighing a lot. It says, my backpack weighed a ton now. I couldn't figure out
Yeah.
why. I wanted to open it to check to see if I had somehow picked up a stray bowling ball, But this wasn't the time. Percy
Why
is
not?
so focused on the goal at hand that he's like, I will figure out where that bowling ball came later. I'm
So
sure it's no big deal.
I got her. There's the pin in that third time that I mentioned. Why the fuck not? Why wouldn't you check that now? I almost would prefer, not almost, I would prefer if he's like, dude, I gotta fucking figure out what's going on with this backpack. And he starts going for it, and then the soldiers start to like post up. He's like, okay, I'm not gonna do that. Because it's so weird. Just the throwaway line of, yeah, now's not the time. Bullshit, Percy. Now is the perfect time to figure out if something weird is going on.
I'm shrugging my shoulders, Jack. I don't know what to tell you. He's 12. He said, this backpack's real weird. Anyhow, I am a man on a mission.
Oh man, all these items are trying to kill us. Man, I can't believe those shoes flew off into Tartarus, and now something's happening with my backpack that a god gave me? Huh. Crazy. Anyways, not gonna think about that right now. I've gotta stand here in this room and not being bothered.
Yup. But then we get to the description and introduction of Hades. And honestly, I could just read you this next, 6 pages verbatim. This shit rocks.
Yeah, it's really good.
He was the third god I'd met, but the first who really struck me as godlike. He was at least 10 feet tall, for one thing, dressed in black silk robes and a crown of braided gold. His skin was albino white, his hair shoulder length and jet black. He wasn't bulked up like Ares, but he radiated power. He's got a throne of fused human bones.
Yeah,
This
dude.
guy is sick.
He's so cool. I love it says he's graceful, lithe, dangerous as a panther. And that Percy, there's this aura, and he again, he clocks it immediately. He's like, "Oh, this is kinda like with Ares." He said, "I just felt like he should be giving the orders. He knows more than me. He should be my master." And this is like one aspect of just this godly big 3 aura. And then
Yeah.
there's a flip side of it that's described later where Percy's like, "You know what? Maybe I should just curl up at his feet, just sleep forever. I'm done. Time to clock out."
Props to Percy. He stands his ground. He fights the feeling, and he steps forward and says, Lord and Uncle, I come with 2 requests. And I love Hades' response.
Uh-huh.
Only 2 requests? Arrogant child, as if you have not taken enough already. Speak then. It amuses me not to strike you dead yet. And for the first time, someone is talking about killing Percy in a non-merciful way. They're like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna fucking kill this kid. I will make
Yeah.
you see the pain unlike anyone has ever felt before.
He means business.
Mhm.
He is not fucking around.
No, sir.
And
Uh,
he's alone too. I love this detail. Percy's like, "Come on, there's gotta be somebody to help me here." And he looks over at the smaller throne next to Hades. It's shaped like a black flower. It's gilded with gold. He's like, "Oh man, I wish Queen Persephone were here, but it's summer." And of course, in the summer, Persephone gets to go into the world of light and be with her mom, Demeter.
mhm.
So that means Hades is not only angry, but he's also alone and horny. And that's just a feedback loop for really not good behavior.
I know there is no movie in Ba Sing Se, but this is one of the things that pissed me off most about that movie, is that they brought in Persephone when she absolutely should not have fucking been there.
Yeah.
The movie's just still set in summer. Did you guys not read the source material at all?
No, no, that's the answer. They didn't.
Clearly, the answer is no. Yeah, I know. But while we're talking about the movie, now is a great time to remind everyone that if we hit our goal of 100 followers, we are going to watch the Lightning Thief movie for all of you to determine just how comparable to the book it really is. So it should be an interesting time.
Yeah,
But then we get this whole conversation playing
we
out,
do.
which is Percy stammering, Look, Uncle Hades, I really don't want a war. It would be like really, really bad for kind of everyone. And he's like, just
I
give me the
love how
Master Bolt. We'll be
well,
fine.
hold on. We gotta throw our flowers to Grover, best
Yup.
wingman out there. Percy's like, "Listen, there can't be a war. It would be bad." And then Grover says, "Really bad." And I love it. Grover added helpfully.
Especially hearing about the aura that Hades gives off. Yeah, props to Grover. That was probably genuinely hard to get out.
Yeah, but I also just love how, again, this is all from the mind of Percy. So you could read that helpfully as being sarcastic, but it
Oh,
could also be like,
100%.
you know what? I am sincere. I appreciated that.
And Percy says, return Zeus's Master Bolt to me. Please, sir, let me carry it to Olympus. And Hades' eyes begin to glow. You dare keep up this pretense after what you have done? Percy's like, what do you mean? I didn't do anything. I
Yeah.
just been chilling, man. I just found out all about all this stuff literally like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. It is interesting because throughout this conversation, yes, there has been, as it's been noted earlier in the book too, Hades thinks that Percy did something.
Mm-hmm.
And we're still really not sure what. And now it's all reaching ahead. And I love how, as Hades is getting more and more angry, he feels like he's being insulted, toyed with, disrespected. And based on his perspective, I'd come to that conclusion too. This arrogant little shit is in my house and lying to my face. What does he think I am? Stupid?
Yeah. Well, and then he follows it up with, do you think I want a war, godling? And Percy's like, I mean, I thought so. Do you not? And he's like, kids. Have you any idea how much my kingdom has swollen in this past century alone? How many subdivisions I've had to open? He's corporate America, bro. He's like, damn,
He
we just
is.
have to keep making too many suburban neighborhoods.
The logistics of undeath, or I guess just death, not undeath yet. It is
Yep.
literally just the dead. Very funny. This goes from being incredibly intimidating to like you feel kind of bad for the guy.
Suddenly he's just overworked and tired.
Yes,
More
he's
security
incredibly
ghouls,
overwhelmed.
traffic problems at the Judgment Pavilion, double overtime for the staff. I used to be a rich god, Percy Jackson. I control all the precious metals under the earth, but my expenses.
And that last bit did make me actually audibly laugh. But my expenses! You can just imagine hearing the frustration and the anguish in this guy's voice. It's so good. And again, this is following right after something that I don't think we mentioned. The throne room is shaking.
Yes.
As Hades is getting more and more insulted, the throne room shakes with a tremor so strong, Percy thinks that they're probably feeling it, as he describes, upstairs in Los Angeles.
And when they get
Doors
back to
burst
LA,
open, skeletal warriors are starting to march in, hundreds of them. So, like, this is a fucking terrifying scenario.
oh yeah.
Uh, and then it's followed with, "Oh, you wouldn't believe the headaches. My KPIs, we haven't hit them in 1,000 years."
You get this layered detail of the earth tremoring, and then later learning he is actually creating earthquakes in California, which is
Yeah.
just makes so much sense. And then Percy's Charon wants a pay raise, I blurted, just remembering the fact. As soon as I said it, I wished I could sew up my mouth. Don't
And
get me
I
started on Charon. He's been impossible ever since he discovered Italian suits.
he's
Man
just
realized
so
he was wearing funny
exasperated.
hats for a millennia, and he was like, I gotta switch to a new look.
He just keeps going. He's, like, kinda trauma dumping on his nephew. "Problems everywhere, and I've got to handle all of them personally," which, 1, he's a great leader for doing that, but also you need to delegate, okay? You can't take it all on yourself. He says, "The commute time alone from the palace to the gates is enough to drive me insane." And and then it gets a bit more like, "Oh, shit, this really is not Hades." He said, "And the dead just keep arriving. No," in italics, "no, godling. I need no help getting subjects. I did not ask for this war."
Remember that comment that Percy made earlier about wanting to sew up his mouth?
Yeah.
But you took Zeus's Master Bolt. At this point, Hades is losing his shit. Lies! They're all
Yeah.
rumbling.
And he
I
grows. He gets bigger.
yeah.
Rises from his throne. He towers to the height of a football goalpost. Says, "Your father may fool Zeus, boy, but I am not so stupid. I see his plan." And this is where we get, it's like we're starting to check things off the list. All the little pieces are starting to fall together, and we're starting to see things for how they truly are, for the most part. Couple of outliers. It's very, very apparent that Rick wrote mysteries.
This is your big reveal chapter. This is the chapter where suddenly you realize you've got all the pieces and you just have to put them together. And since you haven't done it yet, I'm going to put them together for you. And it all just clicks. It is so fun to read.
Yeah, it's so good. And I'm just going to read this next paragraph. Percy says, "What do you mean, his plan?" And Hades goes, "You were the thief on the winter solstice. Your father thought to keep you his little secret. He directed you into the throne room on Olympus. You took the Master Bolt and my helm. Had I not sent my fury to discover you at Yancey Academy, Poseidon might have succeeded in hiding his scheme to start a war. But now you have been forced into the open. You will be exposed as Poseidon's thief, and I will have my helm back." There's a lot there, Connor. There's a lot
There's a
there that we
lot
got.
there.
And best girl Annabeth, she's on top of it. She's like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 hold on. Big old timeout. Your helm of darkness is also missing." And Hades is still just so hell-bent on, like, thinking that this is the truth. Says, "Don't play innocent with me. You're helping the hero, coming here to threaten me in Poseidon's name, probably to bring me an ultimatum. And does Poseidon really think I can be blackmailed into supporting him?" It's just so good. The political machinations here, I feel like we've talked about this before, are really top tier for middle grade fiction.
Yeah. I loved all of this. The constant back and forth, the little interjections every time Hades gets angrier, with the skeletal soldiers getting closer and closing in. It's fantastic. And
Mhm.
then, I mean, you really start to lay into that political machinations with, "You're as bad as Zeus. You think I stole that from you? That's why you sent the Furies after me?" "Of course," Hades said. "And the other monsters?" Hades curled his lip. "I had nothing to do with them." So
Yeah.
suddenly we're getting just layer on top of layer of, you've been
Mhm.
so fucked from so many angles, Percy.
Yeah. For every question that's been answered, it's like a Hydra. Two more rise in its place, and it's so good. It's so good. And I also love that we get some more larger world building in terms of the familial relations and political rivalries between the gods, where Hades even says, "I had no illusions that anyone on Olympus would offer me the slightest justice. I have said nothing of the helm's disappearance. I can ill afford for word to get out that my most powerful weapon of fear is missing." So he's
Yeah.
like, yeah, of course I'm not going to go to fucking Olympus for this. They hate me up there. They're not going to help me. If anything, they're going to use it as an opportunity to seize my domain.
Yeah. And Jack, I edit the episodes, so I get a chance to re-listen to them a lot as I edit them. I am remembering that you and I called out the importance of learning that only heroes can enter different gods' domains.
Mhm.
Only heroes can do things like steal another god's weapon. And so the idea that we are just now getting to that point where it's like, of course Hades couldn't have stolen the Master Bolt. It was literally impossible. They theorized that he could have put on his Helm of Darkness and stolen it, but that was never an option.
Yeah.
It's not mentioned, that's not said by name here, but as we're reading this chapter, it's just another one of those small details that I'm like, the world building here excels.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
structure of the story fits so naturally with the details that are built into it. It is fantastically written, and,
Mhm.
oh, it just made me so happy. I felt like I was turning pages as fast as I could to read the next, and then that happens, and then that happens.
Mhm.
I was having so much fun.
Yes. Oh my god, yeah. It's phenomenal. And I agree. I think I remembered the whole concept of, oh yeah, only heroes can do that. And that's part of why they're in the ecosystem, right? That's, I think, when we
Mhm.
were talking about the ecosystem of this gods and monsters world. It's solidified as a bright line rule because they were like, oh, well, maybe with the Helm of Darkness, maybe with that. I mean, it is an item beyond legendary. Maybe that would allow Hades to do it. But now it's like, nope, set in stone. Literally, that can never happen, no matter how powerful the item.
And this is the
Mm-mm.
moment where Hades is mentioning that, no, he wanted once he realized that you were going to the underworld, Percy, he wanted you to come here.
So as Hades is like, oh, couldn't ask for any help. So I searched for you myself. I sent my furies. And then I heard you were coming to deliver the threat to my doorstep. And I didn't try to stop you. Percy says, you didn't try to stop us, but. And Hades just immediately interjects, return my helm now, or I will stop death. That is my counter proposal. I will open the earth and have the dead pour back into the world. I will make your lands a nightmare. And you, Percy Jackson, your skeleton will lead my army out of Hades. And then the skeletal soldiers all take a step forward in unison and ready their weapons.
I love that Hades recognizes that his biggest bargaining chip is you need the mortals to die. If
Mm-hmm.
I stop working, everything stops working.
Yep.
You want that? I'll fucking give it to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just, dude, chills, chills. And I specifically remember reading through this section as a kid and it blowing my fucking mind. Literally, at the time, it was probably the coolest thing that I'd ever read.
I think that's what makes this stick in your head so much as a novel. The premise is very strong. Please don't let me undercut Riordan's amazing idea for a novel and everything he does in the world building, but he is taking prose and writing it in such a way that a middle schooler can get this reveal and go, "Oh my god, this is crazy. This is well done." If you can wow a middle schooler and be like, honestly left speechless, and then I, as an adult, can come back and read it again and still be like, yeah, that reveal kicks ass. That's just good prose. That's
You
just
did it.
good writing.
Yeah. Oh my god, it's so good. And it just
Well,
keeps going. It just
exactly.
keeps going. And so there's tensions are at literally the highest that they've been probably the entire book, which is saying something. As these armies of the dead are starting to encircle, Percy's starting to get a bit more, we'll say, righteous in his tone, saying, you are accusing me of something I did not do. I will absolutely take blame for something I've done, but that's not this. You are wrong. And Hades says, I want you here. I want you here before me alive so that you might face every torture in the fields of punishment. Why do you think I let you enter my kingdom so easily? To which Percy says, easily? And I love it. Immediately snaps back. Hades just goes, give me back my shit. Return my property.
Yeah.
This is not banter. Stop responding. Give me my things and let me torture you.
I am king. You will listen to me.
Uh-huh. Which also I feel like gives more insight into Hades as a character. If this were literally any other god or goddess, Percy's cooked.
Yes.
So
Hades is,
good.
I like that Hades is trying to explain it to Percy too. Return my property, but I don't have your helm. I came for the Master Bolt, which you already possess. You
Yeah.
came here with it, little fool.
Which,
And
like, wait a minute. Hold on.
yep.
Another big T for timeout. What?
Percy's
I've
like,
got that. What do you mean
what?
I've got that?
A horrible feeling struck me. The weight in my backpack, like a bowling ball. It couldn't be. I slung it off my shoulder and unzipped it. Inside was a 2-foot long metal cylinder spiked on both ends, humming with energy. And I just love that Percy and Annabeth are like, how? And Hades comes back with, you heroes are all the same. Your pride makes you foolish. thinking you could bring such a weapon before me. And when you start to think about like some of the demigods that Hades has had to deal with over the years, and this is the moment where Rick is really he's spelling it out for you. Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades had been set at each other's throats by someone else. The Master Bolt had been in the backpack, and I'd gotten the backpack from ... Lord Hades, wait, this is all a mistake. A mistake? This is the moment Percy's like, all right, we gotta leave, but also my mom is still here. Fuck. And
Yeah.
that's when we get Hades' other big moment this chapter. He says, I know the real reason you brought the bolt. You came to bargain for her. Ares was right. Ares specifically said, your mom is a prisoner of war. I also really appreciated when Percy starts to put together the prophecy a couple pages later. There's some more between that, though. And specifically, Jack, I'm sure you saw this too. I loved Annabeth and Grover getting their proper hero moments.
Yeah. The entire interaction with those three was just, mwah, chef's kiss, phenomenal.
So, Grover and Annabeth are both realizing the same thing Percy is realizing. There are only 3 pearls, 3 exits from the underworld, and there are 4 of them, including Percy's mom. And so Grover, the first one says, leave me here. Use the 3rd pearl on your mom. He can torture me until I die. I'll just be reincarnated as a flower, though. He won't get me forever, which is heroic sacrifice. But Annabeth,
Yeah.
they've become friends. Immediately is like, no, you two go on. Grover, your job is to protect Percy. Percy, this is your quest. Get his mom out of here. I'll cover you. I plan to go down fighting, which is just, again, so good. And then Percy follows it all with, stop it, both of you. I felt like my heart was being ripped in two. They had both been with me through so much. I remembered Grover dive bombing Medusa in the statue garden, Annabeth saving us from Kerberos. We'd survived Hephaestus's Waterland ride, the St. Louis Arch, the Lotus Casino. I had spent thousands of miles worried that I would be betrayed by a friend. But these friends would never do that. They had done nothing but save me over and over, and now they wanted to sacrifice their lives for my mom. I know what to do, I said. Take these. And I handed them each a pearl. Gave me chills, man. That is
Yeah.
peak what this novel is all about.
That's right. Yeah. I'm a sucker for a good flashback section. And this is such a great recap, just as a point of reference for like, yeah, they have gone through a lot. The book is almost done. Look at all these triumphs and death-defying experiences that they've had and gone through together. It warms your heart, man. It's beautiful.
It is. And Percy is determined to do the right thing. And one of the things that I loved most about this was Percy is so validated in his choice just because of the person that Sally is and has taught him to
Yeah.
be. She would never forgive me if I saved her instead. That line alone sums up everything you need to know about her and Percy's relationship.
Yep.
He thinks about the prophecy and he remembers the line, you will fail to save what matters most in the end. He says, I'm sorry. I'll be back. I'll find a way. And then,
We get an oh shit moment from Hades.
mhm,
The smug look on his face, the checkmate posture drops, and he just goes, Godling? It's like it's setting in. He's like, this isn't like other heroes. Holy shit, it's
mhm.
not. This
And
guy's
Percy,
different.
he continues setting the bar for honor and good word. And he says, I'll find your helm, uncle. I'll return it. Don't forget about Chiron's pay raise.
Yeah,
That
and
line,
also play with your dog.
and also play with your dog.
And I love Hades tries to get a word in edgewise. He says, do not defy me. Which again shows a lot of like who Hades is. He's like kind of a pushover. He doesn't like want to have to be this big bad tyrant guy.
Yes.
He's getting strong armed by this his nephew, his little mortal nephew.
He's like a parent trying to use your full name to get you what you want to do. Percy Jackson, you will not. I shouted now. They
Mm-hmm.
smashed the pearls. And Hades is just like, oh, come on, man.
Yeah, I love there's just a pause. We smash the pearls at our feet, and for a scary moment, nothing happened. That moment happens first, and then Hades is like, "Destroy them! Get them! Holy fuck! It didn't work! Get them! Don't let them leave!"
But it's too late. The pearls explode and they're encased in, it says, a milky white sphere. So I guess they just get turned into bubbles and slowly float out of the underworld like they're in
Yep.
Steven Universe.
Uh-huh. Or also very Wizard of Oz,
Yep,
Glinda the
that
Good
too.
Witch coming down.
And he remembers what he was told about the pearls. What belongs to the sea will always return to the sea. And they arrive back at the surface of LA. And Percy doesn't even need to check. He knows what time it is. It is June 21st, the day of the summer solstice.
Mhm. Yeah, and also LA's on fire, which not to date the episode too much, but a little too real.
Eh,
LA's burning. Whoops. Yeah. That earthquake, very, very real and very bad.
yeah,
Just it
neat.
shows the power of these gods. Hades got frustrated and basically toppled LA.
Through a minor tantrum.
Yeah.
Absolute insanity. But while they chaotically try to figure out what's happened, before we move on to some myth stuff, chapter recap. I feel like the back half with Hades is absolutely good enough for me to say this was a favorite chapter of mine. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah. I know I poo-pooed it a little bit at the beginning, and I still think it's warranted, but maybe I'm poo-pooing it because the rest of the chapter was just so fucking good.
It's
You
hard
know?
when you overshadow the beginning of a chapter with such a solid friggin' ending to where you're like, where did we start in this chapter? Did anything happen? Didn't Grover like some? Oh, yeah, that's right. He almost
It's
got pulled
yeah,
into Tartarus.
pulled in Tartarus. Yep. Yeah. It dude, it's up there. This chapter is definitely up there. I don't know if I could put a specific number to it, but it's top 5 and it might not be number 5.
I'll be eager to see where it lands when we start actually ranking all the chapters because I really
Yes.
enjoyed it. I think, as you pointed out multiple times, Hades' characterization is so different from the other gods. It is really interesting. There's a lot of layers to it, and that makes him fun. He gives these demigod heroes the time of day to actually talk. And he's genuinely upset when they don't get it because he wants to just be mad at them. But if they're
Mhm.
naive and stupid, then he can't be mad. They're
Yeah.
just stupid. He deals with idiots all day.
Yes. This is the time where he thought he could be like, "I outsmarted you. I won. I did it. I saw every angle, every permutation." He's like, What are you talking? What do you mean? What do you mean I didn't win?"
And he doesn't get the satisfaction. And that is so infuriating him. And I really do think that that is part of why he's like, I just need to explain to you before I kill you because I need to know that you did this on purpose. Please.
Yes. Well, not even only that, like, "Hey, I'm gonna kill you and we're gonna be with each other for eternity. I need you to know that I know."
Yes. I really enjoyed this chapter. But while we are here watching the sunrise on June 21st, I've got a few myths for us. Shall we get started?
Let's do it.
So I'm going to start us with the first ish thing that was referenced here, the Fields of Asphodel. So, understandably, we spent a lot of time in the underworld this chapter. So, we're going to be basically talking all underworld related things. The Fields of Asphodel, let's set precedent. Firstly, the Asphodel Fields are named after a flower, specifically the asphodel flower. So the Fields of Asphodel have a couple of names. They can be the Asphodel Fields, the Asphodel Meadows, or in a closer to the actual ancient Greek, the Limon Asphodelon. So the flower itself is referenced by Homer and other individuals, and likely the exact version of the flower would be the Asphodel ramosus. I've linked it in the show notes so you can check out and see the Wikipedia page and get an idea for what it looks like. But to give a brief description, it's a white flower similar in shape to a lily. It has an orangish center and blackish brown lines that run down the center of each petal, so that the buds, when they're all sealed up, have a sort of skeletal look before they bloom. I thought it's kind of fitting that this is the flower of the underworld.
Oh, yeah. It feels very apt.
There are other interpretations as to how the Asphodel Fields got their name. Some historians think the original ancient Greek word may have, in its native alphabet, shared roots with the word for ash, and perhaps it was sort of, in its own way, a pun, or perhaps that the flower was named for looking like ash. Hard to say, but over time, people began to associate the word and the flower with descriptions that were related to the underworld. So, the Asphodel Fields themselves. The earliest reference we get of this part of the underworld in literature comes from the works of Homer. Specifically, there are 3 references to it in the Odyssey. Reminder, the Odyssey and the Iliad are the oldest surviving works of Greek literature we have from around the 8th century BC. The stories themselves are probably even centuries still older. So, this does show a cemented understanding that this was the perception of the afterlife. So, those 3 references. There are 2 in Book 11, where Odysseus is speaking with the spirits of the dead, and 1 in Book 24. I'm going to use that one because I think it does a good job of really expressing where this was in the grand scheme of things. In this passage, Hermes is fulfilling his duty as psychopomp and is leading the souls of the dead suitors that Odysseus has killed down to the fields. It reads, Hermes, the helper, led them down the dank ways. Past the streams of Oceanus, they went past the rock Lucus, past the gates of the sun and the land of dreams, and quickly came to the mead of Asphodel, where the spirits dwell, phantoms of men who have done with toils. So, you get the picture. This is where all the ghosts are. We
Yep.
see all of the other parts of the underworld that you didn't make it to. You are sitting around in permanent limbo. Have fun, guys.
Great. Awesome. So
What
I
I
guess, yeah, that is it's pretty accurate. Good job, Rick.
Yep. What I did find a little bit odd is that these are actually some of the only references in a major literary work that I could find to the place, the Fields of Asphodel, the Asphodel Fields. There is other scholarly research indicating that the asphodel flower did have commonplace uses in poetry for both death-related things, but also for a more, we'll say, positive outlook. The flower is described for its beauty and its delicateness, etc. One in particular reference that cements the notion that the flower did certainly have some association with death and the dead comes from a metered saying attributed to Aristotle that has been found ascribed on many, many tombs that reads, On my back I hold mallow and many-rooted asphodel. On my breast I hold, and then you would put the name of the person if it fit the meter of this little poem. So, the implication being, you would lie on the back of the dead, the flowers as they're buried, and in your heart you would hold their memory, their name. Clearly an association there. So that does bring us to at least my question. Is this the medium place? Well, there's very clearly a good place, Elysium, and a bad place, Tartarus. Notably not the Fields of Punishment, by the way. I'll just go out there and mention it since we're not talking about the Fields of Punishment. That's just because that's a Rick original. In actual Greek mythology, you do bad shit, you get tossed into Tartarus.
You go to the
Tough.
pit.
Sucks. You get thrown in the pit. So there is also some evidence, though. The reason I bring up that this is supposed to be a medium place is that asphodel flowers also had some basic association with the common man. So certainly for medicinal purposes, which, by the way, the actual medicinal validity of using asphodels is questionable at best when scrutinized by
Mhm.
modern science. It doesn't work. And there is also some research to indicate that asphodel flowers were actually used as a food of last resort, a starvation food. Bland, unappetizing, but something to eat in very desperate times.
Oh, that's exactly what I want eternity to be.
It is quite literally a common man's flower. Take, for example, even this quote from Hesiod's Works and Days, written just after the period of the Iliad and the Odyssey. Let us settle our dispute here with true judgment, divided our inheritance. But you seized the greater share and carried it off, greatly swelling the glory of our bribe-swallowing lords, who love to judge such a cause as this. Fools! They know not how much more the half is than the whole, nor what great advantage there is in mallow and asphodel. Notably, it is the bribe-swallowing lords who are fools who do not know the great advantage of the asphodel. Ergo, the common man is associated with the asphodel.
Hmm.
And thus, the common man lands in the Asphodel Fields.
This doesn't make me feel any better.
Yeah, I didn't
Actually,
think
it's
it
still
would.
incredibly sad and a little terrifying.
Would you like to
Will it get
instead talk
better?
about barbecues?
Yeah,
That's
barbecues.
all I
Woo!
have to say about the Fields of Asphodel. They are literally just a vast empty nothingness for common people who lived common lives.
Great. If you're average, I feel like that is being damned. Genuinely.
Yup.
I
So,
would almost rather be tortured. At least there's something happening.
at least there's something going on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's some sort of interaction, I guess. There's something to keep my mind occupied.
Dude, I wish I could give you some solace. It's just kind of depressing.
Yeah, this sucks. Fuck.
So, if that's the medium place, let's talk about the good place. It's important to note that we're actually going to talk about two distinct places. Firstly, the Elysian Fields, or Elysium, which would be the good place, and the Isles of the Blessed, or the White Island, or the White Rock, which would be like the best place. If you've seen season 4 and heard Brent say, I get it, I'm supposed to be in the best place.
Mhm.
Greek mythology actually has a legitimate best place. But first, let's just talk about the good place. There are actually quite a few names for what we would today call Elysium. So there's the Elysian Fields, the Elysian Plains, or the Elysian Realm. It's also sometimes referred to as the Lethean Fields in reference to the fact that the river Lethe creates the border that separates Elysium from the rest of the underworld. What's particularly interesting there, though, is you'll notice that all of these use Elysian as an adjective, not as a noun. It was actually the Romans who began to use the Latin word Elysium, which derives from the original ancient Greek, to mean the place that was the Elysian Fields or the Elysian Plains. We can see this, for example, in Virgil's Aeneid from the 1st century BC, where Aeneas's father is appearing to him in a dream. He's dead, by the way. And he says, I dwell in Elysium, amid the sweet assemblies of the blessed. So the word by Roman times is just Elysium, and so that's where we get it from. But the Greeks, they used it as an adjective, which does raise the question of the etymological origins and what that meant. Unfortunately, it's been lost to time and largely considered to be unknown. Experts have suggested a few varying ideas, but there's so many of them and so few and far between, it's practically impossible to know which, if any, of our interpretations are correct. So I'm not even going to bother getting into it. It's just an adjective that means the good place.
Damn. Connor, you just deprived somebody of another bingo checkbox with me saying linguistics are fucking awesome.
I really searched, and genuinely there are like 10 different explanations. And I was like, if there are 10 explanations, there is not a single right one. So we're just going to move on.
Fair enough. Just know that I'm violently and viscerally disappointed.
Well, that's fair. I can't help you there. I've strived to do better, and today I failed.
Wait. This is the bad place.
No, no, no. We're still talking about the good place. And nepotism.
Oh,
We're
okay.
about to get to that.
Oh,
So,
hell yeah.
the earliest references to Elysium can yet again be found in the Odyssey. So, in Book 4, Proteus, a prophetic sea god, is addressing Menelaus, Helen's at this point husband, and he tells him, But for thyself, Menelaus, fostered of Zeus, it is not ordained that thou shouldst die and meet thy fate in horse pasturing Argos, but to the Elysian plain, and the bounds of the earth will the immortals convey thee, where dwells the fair-haired Rhadamanthus, and where life is easiest for men. No snow is there, nor heavy storm, nor ever rain, but ever does Okeanos send up blasts of the shrill blowing west wind, that they may give cooling to men. For thou hast Helen to wife, and art in their eyes the husband of the daughter of Zeus. So, specifically, that reveals first that some guy with nice hair named Rhadamanthus is important enough to call out by name. Second, it was a pretty sweet place to live.
Uh-huh.
And third, that you get in for free if you're related to Zeus, because nepotism is inescapable,
Even by marriage. You can marry
even
and
by
still get
marriage.
nepotism. Great.
I'm going to come back to that Rhadamanthus guy just briefly. In life, he was a wise king of Crete and the son of Zeus and Europa. He's actually Minos' brother, and everyone is going to feel the need to mention his very nice hair. I should mention I'm being a bit facetious. When they say fair-haired, they actually just mean blonde, but it's far funnier to think that everyone's just like, he has
Like,
Fabio hair.
this guy's flow is just insane. That's why we
It's
let him into
crazy.
Elysium. I know he's
Exactly.
technically the son of Zeus, but that hair alone, oh my god.
It is possible that in the time of Homer, there was not yet a distinction between the Elysian Fields and the Isles of the Blessed, and some scholars have argued both ways. This could, however, just be a result of the limited references to the various sections of the underworld in the works of Homer. Nonetheless, we actually can see one other reference that does mention the White Rock, which again is just a name for the Isles of the Blessed. Just a moment ago, when I was discussing the Asphodel Fields, I read you that quote from Book 24, and it describes the sights they saw along the way. Past the streams of Okeanos, they went past the rock Lucas. The rock Lucas just being another way to say the White Rock. So, either way, this does clearly establish the existence of Elysium and the Isles of the Blessed. As we go forward, we get more detail, and things begin to change. In Hesiod's Works and Days, he writes, and they live untouched by sorrow in the islands of the blessed along the shore of deep swirling ocean. Happy heroes for whom the grain-giving earth bears honey-sweet fruit, flourishing thrice a year, far from the deathless gods. And Kronos rules over them, for the father of men and gods released him from his bonds, and these last equally have honor and glory. Notably here, no mention of fair-haired Rhadamanthus. Instead, they're ruled by Kronos, big bad evil guy of all of Percy Jackson and the
Yeah.
Olympians. They just let him out of the pit and they say, you get to rule super heaven.
They're like, you know what? You served your time. Get on up here.
Yup. And then 200 to 300 years later, in Pindar's Second Olympian Ode from the 5th century BC, we'll actually get a reference that includes both Kronos and Rhadamanthus. Those who have persevered 3 times on either side to keep their souls free from all wrongdoing follow Zeus's road to the end, to the Tower of Kronos, where ocean breezes blow around the island of the blessed, and flowers are gold, blazing, some from splendid trees on land, while water nurtures others. With these wreaths and garlands of flowers they entwine their hands, according to the righteous counsels of Rhadamanthus, whom the great father, the husband of Rhea, whose throne is above all others, keeps close beside him as his partner. So, in this version, Rhadamanthus is like Kronos' vice president, except the vice
Uh-huh.
president have to do all the work.
I see, I
And
see.
Kronos just watches from his tower. He says, yeah, yeah.
This is good. Nice hair, by the way.
And another detail that you may or may not have caught there, because it's easy to miss, is not as clear as you might expect, but this is the first version that tells us of the option for reincarnation. Those who have persevered 3 times on either side to keep their souls free from all wrongdoing follow Zeus's road to the end. And so on and so forth. We know that this is the end of the road is the Isles of the Blessed. So this is the first reference to if you are reincarnated 3 times, you get to go to the best place.
Mm.
And while I've moved away from spending as much time on in-universe Percy Jackson lore, Jack, there is a detail that is just too good to pass up mentioning.
Ooh, okay.
You
I'm
know
rubbing
how
my
you
hands like
were
a fly right now. Let's hear
you
it.
know how you were talking about how Elysium does not seem like it's worth it?
Yes.
Well, in Percy Jackson's Greek Gods, they specifically describe the Isles of the Blessed as being Caribbean-type private islands in a lake in the middle of Elysium where souls who lived 3 virtuous lives in a row could retire after their third death. However, it's also revealed that not many souls manage to accomplish this, and that it is, quote, like winning the good person Powerball lottery, which makes a lot of sense if you consider the previous quote, which says that to make it to the Fortunate Isles, you have to have lived free from all wrongdoing 3 times in a row. Can you even imagine how hard it would be to live one life free of literally any wrongdoing, anything at all? Now
Yeah, well,
imagine
I'm
having to
doing
do
it
that
right now. First off,
three
I'm doing
times.
that. So, yeah, if you need somebody to look to, right here, okay? But
Okay, but is
also,
it easy?
I make it easy.
Ooh, too
Maybe
true.
it's hard for a bad person like you, Connor, but
For
that's
the
besides the
plebeians?
point. And you know what? Because I'm such a good person, I'll forgive you, but we're not gonna linger on you and your sins and your vanity and all the other nonsense that you bring about with you. I really was hoping that we'd get something better than just, "Yeah, you win the Powerball, you get all expense paid trip to the Bahamas." Again, I reiterate, I fucking hate resorts, personally. I despise them. If I'm like, "Oh, fuck, I did it. I threaded the needle 3 times. Let's go." And they're like, "Alright, now you get to go to Cancun." I d all the hard work that I did, instantly gone. I would unleash horrors upon the underworld, the likes of which there would be legends about. Or maybe no legends. I think it'd be the end of everything. I'd find a way.
You would crumble the earth in upon itself, caving into
I
the
would.
underworld.
I would be a story of the end of a world and the start of something new. I'd start a mythology.
I'd read about that.
Yeah, it'd be great. So maybe let's try to reach a little bit higher than, yeah, you can, there's a swim up bar. That's pretty good,
Woo!
right?
There's free Mai
Also,
Tais all the time, baby.
I am curious, Connor, and I am not expecting there to be an answer that we have on this.
Mhm.
But like, what if you're just really good 2 times and then the third time you like royally fuck up? Is it all or nothing?
Yep. That's why
Oh,
it's described as winning the Powerball. You get judged on your most recent life. You fuck up the third time, go back to the pits, baby.
damn. So I guess
Mhm.
like, then what life is it, all of your lives like merged together into the final soul of like the thing that gets to experience paradise, or is it the most recent one?
That I don't know. I assume it's the most recent one because there are also some later Roman writers that say if you do the 3 good lives and you make it to the Isle of the Blessed, you can have a fourth life where you're guaranteed to be reincarnated as a hero, king, or sage.
Okay.
So presumably
Uh-huh.
you just get to do the last one where you're guaranteed to be like super fucking cool and rich and
Yeah.
stuff.
It's
And then
new
you get
game
to be
plus
that
plus,
guy
and
in
then
the
you get to
afterlife.
go.
Yeah.
Uh-huh, yeah. Uh-huh. Okay. That's kinda neat. I like that. That's cool.
So, there's also some mentions in some of the works to drinking from the river Lethe, which is said to wash away memory to allow you to return to the surface. So, presumably, you might just have to wipe the slate clean. Can't go back up there if you remember who you used to be. Creating a new soul incoming.
It's true. Yeah, pop out the womb, you're like, "Mother, I know
I
much,
have
and I
seen
have
you
much
in
life to live,
decades.
but also, if we could just speed run this, if you could, like, smash my head with a rock so I could just get the second life done immediately, move right on to the third, that would
I
be
have
dope."
committed no sins yet. It is, I
No
know it's
sins.
been 20 minutes.
Now, I know I'm also damning you to do this, but, like, let's be honest, you probably weren't gonna make it anyways. Could we guarantee that me, your sweet newborn, can go to, like, the best place ever?
Help a brother out.
Exactly. One more go around, I get a free ice cream, and I can be a king. It's great.
You don't understand. There's free Mai Tais on the other side of this.
He says, "Wait, wait, 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 you gotta put a coin in my mouth! You gotta put a coin in my mouth!"
I'm gonna be waiting for ages. Oh man.
So good. Sorry,
But
sorry to derail you from
you're
the
good.
myths. Feel free to get back on track.
Our next myth is Hades and Persephone. And rather than discussing hours worth of background on Hades, because we meet Hades in this chapter, I'm just going to hone in on this one myth because we hear about how they wish Persephone was there at the palace, but she's not because it's summer. But that brings its own problem, which is that this story is massive and popular and has been told and retold so many times.
Mhm.
I have done my best to streamline this by picking one version that I think hits on all of the big pieces. We're going to just go over that. It is also the earliest version I could find. So we are going to be talking about the Homeric hymn to Demeter. It is written around the same time as Homer's other works, presumably slightly later, so sometime around the turn of the 8th and 7th century. And this is the story of how Persephone came to be Hades' bride. She was the daughter of Zeus and Demeter, but given away by Zeus without Demeter's knowledge to Hades, who was searching for a bride. Gaia was actually in on the plan and grew a narcissus, a specific type of flower, to lure Persephone. The original work reads, "It was a wondrous thing in its splendor. To look at it gives a sense of holy awe. And while Persephone is captured by that holy awe, Hades rides in on his chariot while she's distracted and, quote, seized her against her will. Demeter then searches for 9 days, ceaselessly looking for her daughter because she is the only one who hears Persephone's wails, aside from 2 other deities, Hecate and Helios. After 9 days of searching, Hecate arrives to help Demeter and says, if there is someone who saw anything, it is Helios. Let us go to him and ask what he saw. Helios then tells them everything, because he's the sun and he sees everything and he loves to gossip, I guess.
Mhm.
So he says it was Zeus's plan. He gave her to Hades to be his wife. And Demeter's like, I am so pissed. But this isn't a story about Demeter, so I'm going to skip all the stuff in the middle. All you need to know is there's some stuff in between. She meets some humans, takes up residency in a temple in Eleusis. This is why the Elysian mysteries are in Eleusis. It's because that's presumably where Demeter went as she was looking for Persephone. She threatens to kill an entire population of humans. She puts a baby in a fireplace. And that's the short version.
Yeah, great. I definitely don't need any more context. Got it.
Nope. We'll get to that when we talk about Demeter, I'm sure. So all of that happens, and Zeus is like, okay, Demeter is kind of losing her shit, and the weather has been real bad for a while now. So he sends Iris, messenger of the gods, and he says, go just bring Demeter here. And Demeter says, I will never return to Olympus until I see my daughter. So Zeus is like, all right, shit, that is not good. New plan, Hermes, go try and persuade Hades to see if you can get him to allow Persephone to leave the underworld. And so Hermes goes down to the underworld. He arrives. There we learn that Persephone is, quote, yearning for her mother, suffering from the unbearable things inflicted upon her by the will of the Blessed Ones. Blessed Ones, by the way, is the best translation we can get, but we actually don't know what the correct translation would be. So it could either be the other gods who did this to her, as in the Blessed Ones perhaps being Zeus and Hades, who are kings. It could also be the Fates. It could just be the other Olympians. We don't really know, but you get the picture. Hades then slyly smiles and says, oh yeah, I'm a good husband. Here's the deal. Don't appear upset. So long as you're here in the underworld, you will be queen of everything and given all the appropriate offerings and the sacrifices of the greatest immortals. Oh, by the way, here's this, quote, honey sweet berry of the pomegranate to eat. And he gives it to her sneakily, notably sneakily. Persephone then returns to the surface. Everyone is super happy. And Persephone goes, oh yeah, by the way, while I was down there, I did eat a pomegranate seed. And Hecate nods her head and goes, since I'm the one who knows most about magic, I need to tell you. That does mean you have to go back to the underworld at some time. And they're like, I guess that's all right. So Zeus, now knowing that Persephone has been returned to Demeter, says, hey, Rhea, mom, Kronos' wife, go get Demeter. And so Rhea does, because Zeus just apparently cannot pick one messenger. He has to use all of them.
I was gonna say, he's really making everybody feel useful.
Mm-hmm. So he says, Mom, go get Demeter. Demeter now returns to Olympus because she's seen her daughter. And when she arrives on Olympus, Zeus says, just so you know, every time the seasons come around, Persephone is gonna have to spend 1/3 of the year beneath the earth, and the other 2/3 she can spend up here in the company of the other immortals on Olympus. And that is pretty much all the detail, minus 500 lines of flowery poetry that is much better than my short summary.
I don't know, man. You saying that she put a baby in a fire and just not elaborating was pretty good.
I specifically will refuse to elaborate on that one.
I like to imagine you've already determined, like, yeah, Helios, he sees everything because he's the sun. He's like, holy shit, yo, Zeus, you, I saw that. I watched that against my will. I see everything. You gotta like get your sister, man. She's nuts.
There is quite specifically a line where we do not have the translation for the word, but we know that it must be large populations because it's described as a devastating death of people. So it's like, we don't know if this is like a country or towns or all humanity, but this word meant a lot of fucking people that Demeter was
Uh-huh.
just like, I'm gonna kill him. You give me my daughter back or I'm gonna kill him.
There's something about doing so much crazy shit that even Zeus is like, whoa, take it easy, man.
Step back a bit. I yield. I'll go send Hermes to get her.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do anything myself, but I'm gonna delegate the shit out of this.
It's so funny. And honestly, one of the things that I did find very interesting is that in this hymn to Demeter, the characterization of Hades kind of rings true for what you get in Percy Jackson. So I'm going to read just the part that is the quote from Hades as he's like, go on, Persephone, it's chill. He says, go, Persephone, to your mother, the one with the dark robe. Have a kindly disposition and thumos in your breast. Do not be too upset, excessively so. I will not be an unseemly husband to you, in the company of the immortals. I am the brother of Zeus, the father. If you are here, you will be queen of everything that lives and moves about, and you will have the greatest timai in the company of the immortals. Those who violate DK will get punishment for all days to come. Those who do not supplicate your Minos with sacrifice, performing rituals in a reverent way, executing perfectly the offerings that are due. So he spoke, and high-minded Persephone rejoiced. Swiftly she set out with joy, but Hades stealthily gave her the honey-sweet berry of the pomegranate to eat. Peering around him, he did not want her to stay for all time over there at the side of her honorable mother, the one with the dark robe. So he's like, I'm a good guy. Go on. Tell him how good of a husband I am. I'm going to give you all this cool stuff. By the way, you're stuck here forever.
Gotcha. What a sneaky little
And
minx.
that is the myth of Hades and Persephone and why we have seasons. And lastly, a truly short one. I went and pulled a little bit of information on the thing that Hades is so damn mad about this entire chapter, his missing Helm of Darkness. Which,
I
mind
thought you
you,
were gonna say the commute from the palace to the gates.
so true. I wish there was a myth about that. But no, instead, I have to tell you about a helmet that Hades literally never fucking wears. The earliest
Great.
reference to the Helm of Hades that I have comes from Hesiod's poem, The Shield of Heracles, from around the 8th or 7th century BC. Specifically, it describes how Perseus, the demigod hero, wears it to defeat Medusa. It says nothing about Hades. It says, upon the head of the hero lay the dread cap of Hades, which had the awful gloom of night. The awful gloom of night being a way to say it made you invisible. Funny enough, the
A
only
little bit
reference I got,
melodramatic, don't you think?
it is a little bit melodramatic. Funny enough, the only reference I could find that isn't about Perseus wearing the Helm of Darkness is from the pseudo Apollodorus, is from our boy pseudo Apollodorus in the 2nd
Oh, no.
century AD.
You got it right. That is the pseudo Apollodorus we're talking about.
And he writes, the Cyclops gave Zeus thunder, lightning, and a thunderbolt, as well as a helmet for Pluton and a trident for Poseidon. Armed with these, the three gods overpowered the Titans and confined them in Tartarus. That's it. That is the closest we get to a reference of Hades actually using his helmet of darkness. Other than that, it's all Perseus. That is literally all I have to say about Hades' Helm of Darkness, because we already talked about Medusa, which is the one big place it gets used.
Wait, oh, hold on. So then, where does the whole concept of the helm of where does that is Percy Jackson the thing that makes that like popular?
In all the versions originally, the Cyclops give Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades their three big things.
Right.
Zeus gets the lightning bolt,
Uh-huh.
Hades gets the helmet, and Poseidon gets a trident. And every single time Perseus wears the helmet, it's described as Hades' helmet of darkness.
I see.
So we know it's definitely Hades,
Uh-huh.
but he just never
And we know
uses it.
it turns you invisible and that's it. Okay.
Yep. I suppose
Okay.
the alternate interpretation is that he used it so well that we never find out that he's using it,
That's pretty
because it makes
good. I like
him
that.
more invisible than other people. And that
Mhm.
aligns with the idea that when you die, he might be watching from the shadows because he can be invisible.
Mm,
Makes him one of the
I
gods that
see.
you're never sure if you've seen him or not. He could be anywhere.
Mm, mm. That actually okay, that's pretty cool actually. When you put it like that, that's actually dope.
But that is all of our myths for today. I tried to keep it short because this was kind of a big, important, bombastic chapter, and I really didn't want to break down hundreds of different versions of Hades and Persephone because that sounded like a lot of work.
That is a lot of work. But listeners, if you want me to put Connor to work, let us know if you want to hear more about like that myth. We've been talking in the background outside of recordings about different like specials we could do, things for different seasons, holidays, stuff like that. I jested that Hades and Persephone would be good for a Valentine's Day special. So if people are interested in that, make sure to comment, reach out, let us know if there's some interest there, and we'll see about getting to it.
Absolutely. But with that, final thoughts? Or just excited to move on to next time when we get to see a sick ass battle between Percy and Ares?
Yeah, it's really painful that we're gonna have to wait a week to discuss everything.
I
It
know.
just it is so abundantly clear how I devoured these books as a kid. You just don't wanna stop.
They move so quickly, but nothing feels like you're missing too much detail. And in fact, the
Mhm.
few moments where it slows down, you're like, no, give me more. Let me back at it. And we are clearly at the climax of the novel. Hades and
Oh, yeah.
Ares are the two big sticking points, the big adversaries, and we're hitting them back to back, and it is sick.
Yeah, man. I wish I had more substance that I could add. I'm just so hyped to keep going.
Well, in that case, I think the best thing to do is catch you all next time as we see Percy get into his biggest, baddest fight yet.
See ya.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast and want to support our content, please be sure to leave a review, share with your friend, and follow us on all your favorite podcast platforms. Until next time, this has been Notes from the Oracle. That was a fun one.
Yeah, dude, that was great.
I
I
really enjoyed
really
that chapter.
It was really good. I think I was being a little hard on it at first, especially as I was going over my notes, because I was actually a good noodle and read this like a couple days in advance instead of just right before recording. And it's just a lot of my notes at the beginning were very like, that's it. Like there could be more. And I do feel like that is still kind of the case, but the rest of the chapter is just so fucking good that I might have to overlook it. I might have
For
to.
Yeah, I was gonna say, for how well structured the mystery and everything is, I get the impression that Rick, he definitely had to outline, and I know some authors will just pick a chapter and just write that one chapter that they enjoyed.
Mhm.
It makes me wonder if when he picked up this chapter to write, he was like, all right, I need to do these things, but I really just want to get to writing this big deal with Hades. Because that's
Yeah.
more than half the chapter is just spent in Hades' palace. So, at least to my interpretation, it really feels like it might have been a, all right, they do this, finally, the good part.
Yes. I made a note somewhere, and during the main kind of going through it, I didn't really have a good point to just, like, mention it. But it was when Hades was like, "And then this happened, and then that happened." It's the whole unraveling, the revelations, the reveals, the twists and turns, a new mystery forming from the current mystery, all that good stuff. And all I could think was, I bet this is so satisfying as a writer. Like, you just know he was writing this and was like, "This shit is fucking heat. It's so good."
Yeah. I mean, that's the moment that he was sitting there going, if I always like to say, if you haven't put it together yet, you're gonna fucking put it together now. And as an author getting to spell it out and be like, see all the cool shit I did?
Uh-huh.
Were you paying attention?
Uh-huh.
It's gotta be rewarding. I mean, you and I, as people who do a lot of creative writing for D&D, we've been there.
Oh,
When
yeah.
suddenly the players are like, "Oh, that's what you were getting at?" And you're like,
Uh-huh.
"Mhm,
All
mhm."
the pieces start meshing together, and it's like, genuinely, like, you're just checking off boxes, like, tick, 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 tick. There it is. It's all there.
That's the fun part,
Oh,
'cause then you're closing things. You're closing tabs instead of opening them
yes.
up.
The bow is starting to get wrapped on this beautiful little present. Oh my god, yeah. I It was honestly really hard this chapter to say things of note, not because I didn't have things to say, but because a lot of what I wanted to say was, "That was so cool." That was just so good.
I actually did write in my chapter that I was like, "I don't know what I'm gonna say about this other than I really enjoyed it."
Uh-huh. Oh, this is the exact same place, and I mean, dude, I've been thinking about it in the background. This is definitely, again, I said top 5, I think it's definitely top 4, maybe even 3. It's really good, and I don't even wanna say it's recency bias. Again, I read this a couple days ago. So, like, I've
Yeah,
been
here, let me
sitting
pull
with
up the
it for a
chapter
little bit.
list. What compares? I'm not even gonna try and rank, I'm just gonna try and compare.
Mhm.
Capture the Flag, that's a great chapter.
Yes.
I'm gonna guess that I'm gonna really enjoy a lot of the coming chapters, 20, 21, and 22.
Mhm.
I would bet that 20 and 22 in particular make it up there for me.
I
This one's
think
really, really good.
there's Montauk. I know you really we both really enjoyed it, but you
Mhm.
especially enjoyed the Montauk chapter. I stand by. I think the Medusa chapter is on its own as just an isolated story, the best chapter, like, for
I
sure.
was literally just debating if I would put that one at the same echelon as this or not. Now, I think I fall into the same boat where, yeah, I would. I think there's also something particularly nice about, like, the Medusa chapter as well as this chapter where they're, like, kinda peak mythology stuff, where you're
Yeah.
getting a good taste of Rick really having a chance to play with some of the mythological elements, right?
Mhm.
Medusa is a classic movie monster from Greek mythology that everybody's gonna know that he gets to play with in its authenticity.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really fun dynamic to play with of don't look her in the eyes. This is what we're gonna do for this chapter.
Mhm.
And this one is like, yeah, man, we are in the underworld. I am just gonna beat you over the head with underworld shit, underworld shit, underworld shit. And it's really fun.
Mhm.
But
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at the other chapters. This is it's top 3, top 4. It's somewhere in that range. But it's near the top.